You're very welcome. I'm so sorry for the delay. I've been trying to log into the system for like the past 20 minutes, and unfortunately there was an issue with my Chrome and my Internet Explorer. And anyway, alhamdulillah, I'm here. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fatemah Mirza, and I'm from California. But I'm in the Middle East for a couple of weeks, so I'm really sorry if you hear a random ice cream truck going by. I had proper mic set up and everything, so hopefully that won't be a problem. Before I discovered LinkedIn, I used to rely mostly on word of mouth to connect with my target audience and expand business. I had no hands-off marketing plan set up. In other words, I had to work hard every single day to make sure I had a client that day. And I've been using LinkedIn for the past 2 years, and within just a few weeks of using it, I tripled my company's daily income. In addition to helping me connect more easily with my target audience, it helped me build authority, understand what sort of gaps I needed to fill in my own development, and develop a hands-off marketing strategy that works for me even when I take the day off. But before we begin talking about LinkedIn, there are a few things you should know about me. I am an award-winning visual artist. My artistry has absolutely no bounds, and I will be drawing upon my incredible art skills to demonstrate a few key concepts in this presentation. I drew this particular picture with graphite pencils when I was just 16 years old and won a scholarship with it. You see what I mean? You see what an incredible artist I am? You guys are in the presence of greatness. In all seriousness, before I started using LinkedIn, I relied mostly on word of mouth and a hideous website that I designed using Microsoft Publisher. The way I was getting clients was extremely inefficient. I was writing nearly 1,000 words of content a day to keep my target audience engaged, and I wasn't spending enough time developing my own skills or portfolio. I was trying to initiate conversations completely out of context. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Traditional ways of connecting are slow and broken. When you write someone an email or send them your resume, you don't have the upper hand. It's difficult to show your authority without sounding like you're asking for something. According to Workopolis, the average job search takes about 16 weeks. If you're making $100,000 a year, that means you're losing $30,000 just trying to locate and secure your next gig. Small and large enterprises typically get 118 resumes for every job listing, and 50% of those are weeded out by applicant tracking systems and never looked at. Prestigious organizations like Google, on the other hand, get thousands of unsolicited resumes a day. But you aren't here to hear about how difficult it is to get to your goal. You're here because you want to learn how you can connect with key decision makers. Whether you're looking for your next job, clients, or to discuss an idea that's been intriguing you, connecting with key decision makers will cut down the time it'll take to get to your goal. Who these key decision makers are depends on your goals and your industry. And I wanted to conduct a little poll and just to see, what sort of people are here and what sort of key decision makers they wanted to get in touch with. Is that possible?
Well, yes, it was possible, but we have to feed it. But you can do a randomly show, and I can tell you people who have actually sent anything in the chat box.
Okay. So what are people saying? What sort of key decision makers are they connecting with, and what industry are they a part of?
Could you just repeat the question for the attendees once again, Fatma?
Yeah, it's what kinds of key decision makers are you looking to connect with, and what industry are you a part of?
Okay, folks, now you can put it in the chat box. We have HR hats for training and development initiatives. Then we have manufacturing. We have IT, we have academics and key decisions, dean, rectors. We have services, so the list is keep on coming now. Executive education.
Cool. Okay, so we have a huge variety basically.
Yeah.
We can't make this PowerPoint too specific, but that's okay because the tips and tricks I'm about to share with you, they can pretty much be applied for every industry. Actually, they can be applied for every industry. The amazing thing about LinkedIn is that it helps people pinpoint their target audience and, more importantly, see what sorts of conversations they participate in. As anyone who has networked before will know, initiating conversations is extremely difficult and takes a lot of effort and research. However, simply participating in an existing conversation is a lot easier. The basic tone and topic of the conversation has already been set, and all you have to do is add your value to it. That's the secret to using LinkedIn. You have to find your target audience, check out what sorts of conversations they're participating in, and simply engage with them. As you can see from this picture, the user is trying to reach out to his target decision maker, but if he climbs onto that bridge, he's going to fall because the bridge isn't strong enough or well connected. Your LinkedIn profile is not getting enough engagement from your target audience. This may mean a low number of views, views from non-target users, or views not translating to engagement. Your viewers might not be appreciating the value you offer because it isn't highlighted in your conversation or activities. I realized I was working way too hard to secure clients back in 2013. I knew I needed to find out where my key decision makers were hanging out and simply listen in on their conversations and add value to those conversations instead of doing 10 times the work initiating new ones on my crappy website. It was extremely easy to find those conversations on LinkedIn after a few days of poking around because on every social network, people love to discuss their problems. On LinkedIn, people love to discuss the professional problems they're having and also often ask for solutions within those conversations. All I had to do was respond to their questions or concerns with my value. And you can do the same. You want the people in your network and beyond to appreciate the value you offer. However, if you don't have a strong enough profile, engagement you'll be getting won't be as powerful. Let me give you an example. In a LinkedIn group's conversation, someone asks, "What do you think of the summary section of my resume?" And they paste their resume. If I have errors in my LinkedIn profile, or if my LinkedIn profile is weak and boring, would my 2 cents have the same amount of weight in that conversation? Definitely not. And that's why you need to make sure you look credible and authoritative in your LinkedIn profile before offering value or listening in on those conversations. In this webinar, I'll be showing you a neat trick you can use to build that authority. That trick builds on the concepts of storytelling and contrasting. Let me tell you the story of how I was invited to give this webinar. I asked the people of the Harvard Business Review group what they thought was the most engaging profile picture they had ever seen on LinkedIn. People who clicked my profile could see that I had just written an article about the subject titled "Smile with Your Teeth and Other Profile Picture Experiments." In that article, I talked about how I boosted engagement off my LinkedIn profile from 8 messages a week to 80 messages a week simply by using a picture with a 2D smile instead of one with a more formal-looking smile. By talking at length about why engagement in both writing and images is important, I built authority on my profile on that subject matter. Imran saw his connections commenting on my discussion, clicked my profile, and was intrigued by the authority in my profile. And that's how I'm here today. We're going to be discussing 3 steps to ensuring your profile commands authority. While it's extremely important to engage with and stay in touch with connections that are already in your network, this webinar will focus on narrowing down on target decision makers outside your network. By going through the activities in this webinar, you'll find that people in your network will also become more engaged. And the first step is to evaluate how your LinkedIn profile looks to an unconnected user. By taking that step, you'll get a better understanding of how people view you when you engage in various activities on LinkedIn. So first, we are going to discuss value-adding activities that you can engage in on LinkedIn in the order of their relevance and success rates. The first is groups. The best place to have conversations on LinkedIn is on groups because you'll be talking to people who are both in and outside your network. The sorts of groups you will want to add depends on your industry, but there are a few criteria you want to look for. The first is that you want groups where people talk about things that fall under your expertise. In the Harvard Business Review group, for example, people talk about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, job search strategies, interviews, and networking all the time. I see at least a couple discussions a day on topics that I could add value to. Secondly, you want groups where the comment to discussion ratio is really high. This means the discussion shouldn't just be dead, but should have lots of responses and dialogue. If the group starts slowing down, exit and find a new one with more activity. Third, you want a mix of small groups and big groups. Big groups offer more reach, but small groups offer the opportunity to establish yourself as a group expert in your subject area. And finally, you may want to narrow your groups down by location if you're especially keen on connecting with locals only. Before you start interacting, though, you need to check out how you look to other group members. Oh, oops. Groups are the best way to connect with people in your target markets. Narrow down on a single target decision maker on LinkedIn and check out the sorts of groups they are in. Join whatever groups fall within the 4 criteria I mentioned earlier. Remember to share relevant information and value to establish authority. This might include commenting on discussions, sharing articles, or sharing your insight on a particular subject matter. By asking questions in groups, you can survey your target market, as I have done here. I had a client a few months ago who was worried that he might be facing discrimination when looking for jobs. I wanted to get a better understanding of the types of discrimination people faced and what they did to overcome that. I came to the conclusion that job seekers are most at risk for being discriminated against as a result of their age and marital status. I'm in the process of compiling my findings in an article and have a rough draft already, and will reference a few of the people who responded to my question. I responded to their comments individually in private messages and asked them whether they felt comfortable being quoted in my article, and I asked them how anonymous they wanted to be. You can also use groups to build authority. If you continue adding value to a particular group by responding to questions, sharing articles, and donating your insight, as I have done in this comment, your group contribution level will rise up. When you reach the top contributor status, your articles and discussions might get featured, which will result in a lot of profile views and engagement. This might seem like a lot of work to do and may overwhelm you, but once you narrow down on a few groups, like I'd say maybe 3 to 5, I'd say 3 is a good starting point. Once you narrow down on a few groups using the checklist I outlined a few slides ago, you'll have to put in just a couple minutes of effort per day per group, unless you're trying to come up with a long-term marketing strategy the way I was when I wrote that article about engaging LinkedIn profile pictures. I recommend spending at least a couple hours a week on LinkedIn groups, and you'll start building authority in the smaller groups relatively quickly and the bigger ones within a month at the most. Keep in mind that it's going to be a little difficult to build authority at first. You know, your comments aren't going to be seen as quickly, but as your contribution level here goes up, so will your authorities, and people will start paying more attention to your comments. In addition to groups, you need to check out how you look when you comment on articles. Choose which articles you want to comment on strategically based on your target decision makers' industries and interests. Now, I say their interests, not your interests, because if you want to educate yourself and just focus on your interests when looking at articles, that's fine. But for this webinar, we want to focus on their activities and interests, and I set up a filter on my LinkedIn profile that has nothing to do with my own interests, but everything to do with my target audience's interests. You can filter out which articles you want to see in your Pulse feed by clicking Pulse under Interest and then clicking Discover, which I will show you right now. Click on Internet Explorer. Okay, so you go here under Interest, and then you hit Pulse, and then you have the option to choose from People. So these are all the people who have authority. They're called influencers. Channels, you can take a look at the various subject areas that people write about on LinkedIn, and publishers. So these are the three categories you can explore. As you can see from my choices, I've been following, let's see, what's this guy? Your career. My clients are interested in their career. James Kahn, Jeff Weiner, both of whom talk about career-related stuff all the time. And then when you hit a random article, you're not going to be taken to your news. You have to go into Interest and then Pulse and then manually click your news like this, and then you'll be able to see what sort of articles people are publishing in these areas. Try commenting on articles with less than 10 comments, and then comment on articles with more than 100 comments just to see how much engagement you get from each activity. I personally have found that commenting on articles with fewer comments does result in fewer views, But because my comment remains high up, I get more engagement. So for example, this article, this is something I would probably comment in because it has a relatively high number of views, but it has a low number of comments. That means my comment is probably going to be pretty high up. So this lady's talking about basic networking tips, and what I do is I just add my value. That this is a great article, and here's another piece of information that you guys would find useful. Okay. Slideshow. Sorry, I haven't mastered this yet. Okay, so like group discussions, adding your 2 cents in the comment section of articles can lead to traffic to your profile and will result in lots of engagement if what you write has value and benefit to readers. This means commenting with a "I enjoyed the article, Fatemah" won't work, but following the points in the article with your own value will definitely add credibility to your brand. By commenting, you're providing your expertise to the readers of the article. Very similar article, just like the one I was showing you guys a couple seconds ago, and here's what I wrote. In this article, I took the time to really think about the sort of value I could offer to the readers. While the article discussed how to initiate conversations at networking events, I knew from personal experience that not all networking events are created equally. Some networking events are filled with job seekers who just want to get a job. Others are attended by leaders who want to create a synergy with other attendees. That's not to say job seekers don't, but at events like technical conferences have people talking about their innovative products and projects, and these conversations are better to attend than mere job seeker networking conversations because you're not begging for a job resume in your hand. You're seeking to add value to a conversation where people are talking about their passions and projects. You guys see a pattern here? Find conversations where people are just chilling and add your value. That's it. That's all it takes to connect with your key decision makers. So in my comment here, I simply described a technique I recommend my clients to use when they initiate their job search. Okay? Not only did commenting on that article get me likes from the readers of that article, it got me engagement within my own network. See? How many of you have connections on LinkedIn that you've never had a meaningful interaction with? I'm going to be honest, I have at least a couple hundred. By commenting on at least one article a day, adding your 2 cents, you'll be showing the people in your network, like Yasser Durrani, that you have the authority in your field. In other words, you're providing expertise to your network. Taking this step has resulted in several offers to collaborate by connections who had me added but didn't really know what I was all about. The third and the most minor point when it comes to seeing how unconnected users see you is making sure your keyword count is high. I say this is a minor point because I don't believe in relying on keywords to ensure your profile gets lots of views because that won't translate to engagement at all unless you're directly reaching out to the people who viewed your profile and engaging them in conversations, which is a lot of work. Interacting in groups and in articles is a much stronger and easier way to get both views and engagement. Nevertheless, if you start exploring your profile's keywords and the LinkedIn ranking system, you'll uncover lots of insight about your network and probably uncover gaps in your own personal development. That's why it's important that you check out how you look when you search for a keyword in your profile. The first thing you need to do is search for yourself, and I don't mean by your name. You have to search for keywords in your industry and maybe your location if you're restricting yourself by your location. If your search ranking is too high, it may be because your profile doesn't have enough keywords, but I wouldn't worry too much about that unless you're trying to get found by recruiters. If you are, we'll get to that in a second. A really informative and fun thing to do on LinkedIn if you have a premium account is explore the Who's Viewed Your Profile section. It's right under Profile. You guys can check it out. Simply click how you rank for profile views right here and compare your ranking with other professionals in your field. So these are professionals like me, and these are my connections. This feature is only available for premium users, but I highly recommend you get premium just because of this feature and other features that we'll talk about. If you guys email me, I'll tell you more about that. Keep in mind that this way of studying your industry won't give you a completely accurate picture. Towards the beginning of the year, of this year, my profile was mostly geared towards resume writing and quite loaded with the keyword resume. I was very familiar with the work of the people LinkedIn was comparing me with because I was in the same association system. Last month, I rewrote almost everything in my profile to bring more attention to my coaching services. As a result, the list of people LinkedIn is now comparing me with has completely changed. Regardless, it's interesting to see what sort of credentials and portfolios people who are in your industry have. It's interesting to learn about what sorts of events and webinars they're attending, and it's a good place to do some research on your competitors or people you might want to partner up with. As you can see from my profile, I have keywords that my target decision makers should search for in my headline, right here, jobs and resumes. In my professional experience section, I have this entire specialties keyword bank, you would call, and in my recommendations. To get a powerful recommendation with lots of keywords, simply ask your recommender to tell you a story of a time, to tell a story in your recommendation of a time that you helped meet their goals. Now we're going to talk about recruiters. If you want to get found by recruiters, pay attention. To find keywords that might fit your profile, scroll down in the Who's Viewer Profile tab and take a look at these purple boxes. These have skills that you might want to add. So if it says here like add Microsoft Office, I'd note that down on a notepad because I wouldn't. If I just click add, it'll add that in my skills section, and I might want to also sprinkle this out throughout the rest of my profile, like in my headline, professional experience section, etc. So write these down and then just keep hitting X. Oh, oops. Keep hitting X, and then you'll have a long list of a few keywords you can put in. Another great way to look for keywords is, again, to go to your competitors' profiles and see what sort of language and keywords they're using. The third way, and the most effective way, in my opinion, is to look at keywords in your target job listings or your target company's websites. If you're really interested in extracting keywords for recruiters, then check out my article on my LinkedIn profile titled Boosting Your Resumes and LinkedIn Profile Search Rankings. That article has step-by-step instructions on extracting keywords that your target decision makers search for. Are we still on? Oh, the thing disappeared. I got scared. Okay. Another fun place to explore is these tabs. This one, and this one, under Who's Viewer Profile, because it will give you insight on where your viewers are coming from and what sort of keywords they search for to get to where you are. So people search for my name, they search for stuff in my summary, they search for other random words. The one thing that posting in groups, commenting on articles, and showing up in LinkedIn search have in common is the fact that initially all your viewers can see is your headline and photograph. You can check out the article titled Smile with Your Teeth and Other Profile Picture Experiments in my LinkedIn profile to get a better understanding of what makes up the perfect LinkedIn picture. Your LinkedIn headline has a 120 character limit. This means that you have to demonstrate within 120 characters that you have the ability to bring positive change. In other words, you have to use your headline as a stepping stone to build credibility and authority with your target audience. The first step to doing this is to think about your target audience and narrowing down on the problems you can solve for them. It's best to focus on one problem that you can solve. Otherwise, you won't be able to discuss your value in too much depth. So the first step is to think about your target audience needs and daily burdens. What keeps them up at night? What makes them feel inadequate? What makes them feel inferior? Narrow down on a single problem. Study this frowny face and do your best to understand what's causing this frown. The easiest way to do this is to put a name and face on your target audience. I did this exercise last year with a client I had named Suleiman Sheikh. I figured I wanted more clients like him. I fictionalized his name and his persona to protect his privacy, but the exercise will show you how to get info on your target decision maker's mindset. My ideal client's name is Suleiman Sheikh. He lives in Sharjah with his 2 daughters and his wife, and he was the systems analytics VP. He reads the New York Times and the Harvard Business Review, and I know all these things because I looked him up on LinkedIn. Gone are the days when absent-minded people like me failed to add adequate value to conversations because we forgot our handy notebook and pens at home. All we have to do now is look up our ideal clients on LinkedIn to learn what they're all about. Look through their groups, the influencers they follow, and their summary and professional experience sections to get a bit of insight on what sorts of challenges they face. It was easy to guess that Suleiman wanted to transition into a CEO-level job. He had been unemployed for the past 2 months and was consulting with companies throughout the UAE part-time. And he was following a job search guru on LinkedIn. Think about your customers and potential employers' business problems, which fit in roughly into these 9 categories: making and saving money, improving work processes, solving specific industry-related problems, increasing competitiveness, building relationships and image, expanding the business to new territories, attracting new customers and retaining existing ones, improving test scores, and improving morale. You can look through their recent activities on LinkedIn or even go through their company website or set up Google alerts for their company. Any piece of news or activity they do as a company shows that they have either had a success that results in a challenge or a challenge that they need to overcome ASAP. For instance, if a company is expanding to a new region, they might talk about it on their website or their LinkedIn profiles, and you'll know that that growth relates to the need for additional management, administrative people, and probably your expertise. While it may take a lot of time to narrow down on your target decision maker's specific business problems, the effort is well worth it. You'll have a solid understanding of the premise of the conversations you want to initiate with them specifically, and you can talk directly about their problems in your LinkedIn profile. Think about your customers and potential employers' personal problems. Not to say you want to think about their love life and the weather where they live. I mean, unless the weather is something that relates to your industry, if you're like a farming consultant or something. So this doesn't just apply when you're selling and interacting on a personal level, the way I am. It also applies when you're conducting B2B marketing. Every single business problem your key decision maker is facing translates to a personal feeling. Your target decision maker may be feeling inadequate, stressed out, or nervous about their future. It's up to you to put these personal doubts to rest by using the authority you create in your LinkedIn profile to make them think, wow, if I get in touch with this person, my problems will be solved. I won't be as tired and worried anymore. Obviously, this is a simplified version of the analysis you'll be conducting. Your analysis will depend on your industry, location, and a variety of other factors. It usually becomes really easy to conduct this exercise when you think of the people you've already helped or interacted with in the past, because then you'll have a better understanding of their problems on a more personal level. After I conducted this exercise for Suleiman Sheikh, I realized that executives need to feel a sense of confidence in the people they're signing their career growth over to. I needed to show that I can help executives with their job search, which is why I signed up for and achieved the Certified Executive Resume Master Credential a couple months ago. After studying your target decision makers on LinkedIn, carefully compare your LinkedIn profile and networking strategy with what your peers and competitors are doing. You can take a look at their networking activities by clicking View Updates. Let me show you how to do that. Oops, not this guy. So let's go to, let's say this lady, Lisa Sweetie. Let's say I wanna research her either as a key decision maker target or as a competitor. Come on. Okay, so what I do now is once I'm on her profile, I click this little triangle here, and then it'll say View Recent Activity. Come on. So what you want to do is you want to compare yourself to your competitors, and you want to go above and beyond what they're doing, and I'll show you how in just a minute. Anyway, you guys get the point. So just click this little triangle and then hit View Updates, or I think it's View Recent Activities. Study what they're doing, take a look at what sort of groups they're interacting in, who they're you can't see who they're messaging, but you can see who they're commenting on and that kind of thing. How do I, oh, let's go all the way from the beginning. Okay, so one way to do that is to offer a free resource. Your competitors talk too much about what they offer and do not focus enough on their target audience needs. So what you have to do is offer a free resource. If you give a webinar for Mile, for example, or for any other platform, you can save the YouTube link and show it on your profile. I've shown images here, like I have an image of a testimonial, and I have this image of the logo of the credential I have, and this is my company's logo. If you're interested in learning more about the sorts of free resources your network would benefit from, check out the article on my profile titled How to Engage Your Entire LinkedIn Network, which has 4 simple steps to putting together a free resource and getting more offers to collaborate. You can do what I've done, or, I'm sorry, you can do what I've done and put together a written report that answers the most frequently asked questions you get. I'm currently working on a similar report titled Executive Job Search Tweaks. Offering a free resource will not only add authority to your profile, but you also make people think, gosh, if she's offering such an amazing resource for free, I wonder what would happen if I messaged her and offered to collaborate with her. You might think that people in your niche, you might see that people in your niche really overload their profiles with keywords, and you might be tempted to do the same, but don't. They're making their profiles easy for computers to read. You want to make your profile easy for human beings to read. Include only as many keywords as you need to avoid alienating your audience. Speak to their problems. Would I choose this person with this LinkedIn profile to take over my copywriting tasks? Definitely not. Instead of demonstrating how they have the ability to solve my copywriting issues, they wasted their precious LinkedIn real estate trying to maintain a high search ranking, which means literally nothing without human engagement. Here's another example. When I first started out on LinkedIn, I wanted to make sure I was optimizing my time and efforts. I used the LinkedIn search tool to look for a LinkedIn marketing consultant, and this is the first guy that came up. It's evident from his use of long sentences like this one. He can help your business with digital marketing strategy to generate leads, ad buying, pay-per-click. It's just so many words, and I'm like, okay, like what is he specifically going to help me do? Because I looked him up typing LinkedIn marketing consultant, and I don't see anything here that shows that he can solve my problems. So instead of messaging him, I spent 5 hours every day trying to master LinkedIn myself. I explored all the features, and towards the end of last year, I also bought 7 books on LinkedIn marketing. I connected with the authors of those books on LinkedIn instead of relying solely on LinkedIn search results. You have to make sure your profile is flawless. Have an editor look it over or email me. And here's the key takeaway. Relying solely on LinkedIn won't get you very far. Just like I went to Amazon and I looked up authors of LinkedIn marketing, you have to bring in value from external sources and use LinkedIn simply to have conversations with your target audience and connect with them. After you're done comparing your LinkedIn efforts and portfolio with others at your level, write content in your profile that clearly demonstrates the value you offer to key decision makers. Clearly describe how you can solve the problem to engage the viewer. Simply saying that you can solve the problem isn't enough. You have to differentiate yourself from others in your field by talking about how you're different from others who do the same thing. After comparing, you might see new values that you offer that you didn't before. You can differentiate yourself from your peers by focusing on your values, soft skills, or unique background. One way to engage your target decision makers is to talk about your achievements. By detailing how you've helped solve similar problems in the past, you are establishing authority. As you can see from the 3 introductory bullets in my summary, I build authority by talking about where I help clients get jobs, my high-level partnerships, and where I help my clients get into school. However, as is, these 3 bullets are sterile and don't really show the value I offer because these bullets don't paint an accurate picture of how much I truly care about my clients. Unlike resume mills, I work hard to develop all the key skills my clients need me to have, not only to write outstanding resumes, but to coach them throughout the job search process and interviewing. Initially, my summary was just these 3 bullets. However, by detailing my highly personalized process, I increased engagement. I don't just give my clients my service and then back off. I keep in touch to ensure all the prongs of their job search are going well. You can do the same if you talk about your unique skills. As I mentioned earlier, these skills can be either hard or soft. You could talk about how you personally engage your teammates by creating easy-to-access online programs. That's a hard skill. Or you can talk about how you increase team morale by being open to suggestions from your teammates. That's a soft skill. In my case, I talked about my ability to create powerful resumes, disguise weaknesses, and pinpoint opportunities for my clients, all while coaching them to communicate their value effectively. Have a strong CTA. The last ingredient of an engaging LinkedIn summary is a call to action. Spell out what you want your readers to do. In my case, I want my key decision makers to check out what my clients have to say about me, and that's social proof. And I want them to email me their resume so I can show them how I can help them land their target interviews. As I mentioned earlier, the only thing your target decision makers see when they see you commenting or interacting on LinkedIn is your headline. If your headline is boring and bland and doesn't differentiate you from your peers, you're not going to get as much engagement as you should be. That's why you should use a before and after picture to write that compelling headline. You might think that simply saying you're the CEO of Thompson's Business Solutions, Inc. is enough, and that, that shows that you're a CEO and you have so much authority, but it's not. There are thousands who have similar titles on LinkedIn, if not millions. You might think that having a headline stuffed with keywords like HR management, global team management, HRIS systems is enough to get you noticed, but it's not. If you conduct a simple LinkedIn search for any of these keywords, you'll see how many other professionals have nearly the same headline. Instead, use a before and after picture to show your target decision maker how you can bring positive change to their life, and this will make them feel more engaged and taken care of. The first step to writing a good LinkedIn headline is to describe the challenge your target viewer is facing. Go back to the exercise you did earlier when you narrowed down on one key decision maker and pretend you're writing this headline just for him or her. What challenge do you want them to overcome? What questions can you help them answer or answer for them? You can be subtle about it. You don't have to spell it out. I could have said something along the lines of, I'll help you let go of your crappy job, say goodbye to your horrible boss, and learn to value yourself again. But I don't, because that would be extremely rude and condescending. Instead, I subtly lift my target decision makers by showing them what I can do for them. Are they high-level professionals? Maybe, maybe not, but they want to move higher along their career paths. Are they working at prestigious organizations? Maybe, maybe not, but they want to work with more fun people and develop their skills further. Prestigious organizations like the Facebook and Google offer these sorts of opportunities. By understanding their desires and challenges, I wrote a headline that speaks directly to them. You can talk about the personal challenges they are facing, like this personal development coach has done. However, note that his LinkedIn headline, what's keeping you from taking your next big step, you may be closer than you think, doesn't really show how he's going to help me or what exactly he's going to help me achieve. I'll address these two ingredients, the result and the how, shortly. Or you can talk about business challenges they are facing the way this guy has done. His headline says, serving all your IT, creative, accounting, and financial staffing solutions needs. While his enthusiasm about his work really shows because of the punctuation he uses, speaking to multiple business challenges without connecting them will make you seem unfocused. It will also dilute the authority you have because instead of focusing on a singular problem that you can solve like an expert, you seem wishy-washy. If you're a jack of all trades and need help focusing your LinkedIn profile to a single action, email me. In addition to highlighting the question you can help your target decision maker answer, make sure you describe the result you will give them. Show them that you are the answer to their question. What exactly will you help them improve? Review the business needs I talked about in the previous slide and narrow down on a single one. How can you help solve that particular business need? Sorry, I'm contradicting myself. What result are you going to give your key decision maker? This guy says he can help employee benefit brokers make more money. His headline is an excellent start because it talks about the problem subtly, not making enough money, and he highlights that he is a solution. What his headline lacks is focus. What does he do? Is he in sales? Is he a motivational coach? Is he a marketing guy? His headline doesn't specify. That's why you have to think about how you will help your target audience. How will you help them do their job better? This guy gets it. Like the previous example, he doesn't directly spell out what he does, but it's easy enough to guess that he does something with SEO. He not only helps people rank, but he helps them convert. This headline could be improved a bit if you showed how he improves conversion rates. Does he rewrite copy? Does he improve website usability? The sole purpose of your headline is to make your key make your target decision maker so curious about what you have to offer that they just have to click through your profile and read more about what you've been up to. This headline does a great job of capturing that spirit, although it is incomplete according to the standards we've already outlined. Here's another secret you should keep in mind. Most LinkedIn users use LinkedIn through their iPhones. This means that not their iPhones, sorry, their mobile phones. Not everybody uses Apple, sorry. This means that even after they've clicked on your profile, they can only see the first 160 characters of your LinkedIn summary. Those 160 characters have to be interesting and engaging enough to make them click read more. Otherwise, you'll get a bounce. The final ingredient to a powerful headline is the proof. You have to link the before and after pictures by describing the actions you will take. This is extremely important because it shows that you're focused. It builds authority for that one focus, and it will add keywords to your headline. One way to link the before and after picture is to talk about the unique skills you have. How do you use these skills to get from the before picture to the after picture? This headline does a great job at describing how this VP of digital marketing achieves savings by streamlining operations, revamping technical processes, and negotiating. Immediately after reading the value this person contributed to a LinkedIn group, we see how they're able to develop the authority they command. They've achieved significant results in their field. And we know that just by looking at their headline, we're probably going to be super engaged. We're going to click on their profile and then just hit send a message. You can also talk about your unique experience and how that equips you with what you need to help them. This web developer mentions his 7 years of experience developing innovative and simple solutions to complex front-end problems. That immediately shows that he has authority when it comes to solving front-end problems on websites. And finally, why do I keep doing that? And finally, what you can do is talk about the results you've been having on LinkedIn. Just a second. Okay, so you have to mention results that you've achieved in the past if you have significant ones. Have you written a best-selling book? Have you been quoted in the New York Times? Have you capitalized on a multi-billion-dollar gap in your industry? And can you relate these achievements to the results you can help your key decision maker achieve? If so, mention these results in your LinkedIn headline. So to review, you have to make sure you look credible and authoritative in your LinkedIn profile by evaluating how your LinkedIn profile looks to an unconnected user, demonstrating within 120 characters that you have the ability to bring positive change, and using a before and after picture to write that compelling headline. Thank you. Any questions?
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Mirza. Folks, now we're open for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can either raise your hand. There's a hand icon available on your console, or if you want to insert your questions in the question box, I'll be happy to read them over on your behalf. So let me go. There's a caller who has raised a hand. Dr. Zahid Ali Mayman. Dr. Zahid, could you please introduce yourself and ask a question? You have raised your hand, sir. Dr. Zahid, can you hear us? I believe you raised a hand earlier, so let me go to the question box. There are a couple of questions. There are short one and instant one. Okay, the first one, asking questions is always a good strategy, but how do you ensure that questions asked should look more genuine rather than for the sake of improving my visibility? Any advice from content's perspective to engage on such relevant groups?
Can you repeat the question? I was trying to find it on here and I got distracted. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, so asking
questions. Is this it?
It's asking questions is always a good strategy, but how do you ensure that questions asked should look more genuine rather than for the sake of improving my visibility?
Asking questions like the challenges. Okay, well, basically the question you would ask is, how can I help you? Like, that's the most genuine question you can ask because you're humbling yourself. You're saying, I understand that you have some challenges and I would love to help, so can you please tell me a bit more about them? That's the question you're asking. And the answer to that question could be any one of the 9 problems that I outlined in my webinar. So making and saving money, making processes quicker, solving specific industry-relevant problems. And you can email me, and I'll give you a complete list of all the problems that employers typically have. Obviously, this depends from industry to industry. For example, a doctor wouldn't necessarily have the same challenges that a CEO would, and probably you'd need to think about how your industry works to think about those questions. And you wouldn't necessarily directly be asking that to your target decision maker. You'd just be doing research and coming up with conjectures based on your expertise. So because my expertise is helping people get jobs, I know when people are looking for jobs. Like, I could tell from their LinkedIn profile, they'll either spell it out that, hey, I'm looking for opportunities, or if they're trying to be discreet in their groups, they'll have like specific groups related to resumes or job searching, or they'll be following influencers like Liz Ryan who speak about those kind of problems. So you have to really act like Sherlock Holmes. I know it's a lot of work, but it's only for one person. Like, once you narrow it down for that one person, you can pretty much apply that answer and that question to everyone. I hope that answers your question. If not, you can follow up.
Well, thank you very much. We have another one from Mr. Sheikh. The question is, when your audience is wide, like CEOs, CTOs, CIOs, how do you ensure you don't bore them when you're posting specific content within that variety of followers?
I'm sorry, if your audience is wide?
Yeah, I mean, if you have audience is a variety of followers, but they are senior executives, which I understand, like CEOs, CTOs, how do you ensure that you don't bore them with your content on?
Well, that's pretty easy. Instead of focusing on like hard topics like how to improve your company's brand, you'd want to focus on softer topics. So think about the soft skills that all these guys have in common. Leadership is one. The ability to communicate and be the face of an organization is another. So maybe you can find articles about these topics, and then, for example, if there's a group that has all these sorts of executives together, you'd post it. Another thing I could think about is like executive leadership, executive development, articles relating to these topics would also be a good option. So the more, this is also something that relates to resume writing. The more hard your language is, the more technical and specific it is, the more it'll appeal only to a particular audience. But the softer it is, the more it focuses on softer skills like communication, leadership, and that kind of thing. It'll appeal to a wider audience. So even in your resume, you should try to be as hard as possible. So you don't just, so you're speaking to their specific problem. But in general cases, you would go with the software.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another caller with raised hand. We have Brother Bisharat Aziz. Brother Aziz, could you please introduce yourself and ask the question? Brother Aziz, can you hear us? You've raised your hand, sir. Okay, so I can't talk. So, okay, he has rather inserted the question. The question is infographic CV resume better than the traditional and simple one?
That depends entirely on your industry. So, for example, if you're, I would need more information about your specific experience. So, can you please email me, and then I'll take a look at your resume and let you know for sure. But here's a guideline for everyone who's listening. Here's a basic guideline. You would use an infographic resume if you're networking face-to-face. Like, for example, if you're an executive, you're probably going to be relying on executive search agencies, job placement agencies, and that kind of thing. You're probably going to be relying on your extensive network. You're probably going to want a resume that's a bit more attractive. But if you're an entry-level guy, if you're just like a I don't know, like an HR assistant type person, then you would rely on a plain text resume with lots of keywords so that it can get recognized by applicant tracking software, and it'll get noticed for that. And obviously, when it comes to using, what's it called? When it comes to using applicant tracking software, you still want your resume to be super easy to read by human beings. You don't want to just do what that copywriter lady did and stuff your resume with keywords. You want to speak to the reader. And one way to do this is if you're worried that your human-sounding, human-speaking resume isn't loaded enough with keywords, you can just include a keyword bank at the end that has all the tools and software and languages and that kind of thing that you know about, that you know that the job listing is asking for. If you have any more questions about keywords, I highly recommend that article on my LinkedIn profile called Boosting Your Resumes and LinkedIn Profile Search Rankings.
Okay, thank you. And we have another one. There's a lengthy comment, but there's a question posted inside it also from Brother Metwali Abdul Salam. The question is, how can I spread all of my authentic information about my business to those who are using the internet to steal and damage any business except theirs?
How can I use, okay. So basically, if someone says something, if someone says something really bad about your internet and you're worried about your brand and how it's been affected, then what you have to do instead is, you can't, like, no one will ever believe you if you just keep talking about how you're so great. That's never ever going to happen. What's going to happen is if other people start talking about you, that, oh my God, Fatemah Mirza is such a great resume writer, she's amazing, then you probably believe them more. So I'd recommend including maybe a video testimonial on your LinkedIn profile, asking people in your network for recommendations, asking past employers, past teammates, people you've worked with, people you've helped, maybe, you know, your neighbors who know you. Just ask them that, hey, do you remember that time I helped you by doing this and that? Do you remember that problem that I solved? Do you mind writing a story about it in a LinkedIn recommendation? And then now you have the social proof. So the problem that I have when it comes to LinkedIn is that I look young, and it just makes people doubt, like, oh, can she help executives? She's clearly not an executive. She's clearly never held an executive position or done an executive job search. But if they scroll down to the 40-plus recommendations that I have, they'll see, yeah, she's helped lots of executives, and they're talking about how she helped them. There you go. That's your social proof. So no matter how much people say, oh, this business isn't good, or this business has such and such problem, as long as you counter that with social proof, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you. There is another short one. How often should I update my own status wall on LinkedIn in a day?
It depends on how many connections you have. No, wait, does it? It depends on how many connections your connections have. Because, okay, well, basically, I'd say 3 times a day is good. I typically only do it once a day or less, because I found that if I start getting too active on LinkedIn, I get too much business and I can't handle it efficiently. So you have to kind of experiment to see how many conversations you would like to engage in and how much you want. I think more importantly than LinkedIn statuses, it's important to engage in groups and articles, because that'll just show in your newsfeed anyway, and you're also adding value to, it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're also giving value to groups and the readers of the articles. You're also giving groups. You're also giving your value to your networks. So I'd recommend that.
Thank you, and we can take one last question. There's a caller, our regular caller, Dr. Muhammad Rishad Faridi. Sir, the mic is yours, sir. Please proceed with your question.
Yeah, hello Fatemah. Thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering, because of it seems like the job search is more support based with the technology which we were 20 years back. So it is just like it become the headhunters. The new trend is that it's just not they're providing jobs. It's more they're giving us shaping our career, something like that, or they are just solving a problem. They're not just connecting with the employer, with the possible employee. It's more they're counseling and mentoring, and I think LinkedIn is between the employer and the employee. So in academics, we say that we have a lifelong learning concept. So it is somewhere, Fatemah, where you can throw light on that. It's something like the lifelong searching for the employee, on time, searching for possible employment job opportunities or something like that. So do you think about it, since you are into this job search professional business, so what you think the future will be like, and how we, I'm 40 plus, so how we in the middle, we have already witnessed all kinds of turmoils of technology coming up. 20 years or 30 years, it was not so much. So where we are up to, and how, what will be your role like as a headhunter for people who are already 40 plus and will be competitive enough with the new generation, the digital natives, you know, these employees?
Right. Well, it's a very interesting question because, like, I'm not sure if you've heard before, most job positions aren't even filled by job listings. So they usually have to post the job listing up anyway to just for like legal reasons or for like their HR policy. What usually happens is jobs are filled by like either internally or because, you know, I know a guy who can do that job and he's great and, you know, the boss will take his word for it. Again, a concept of social proof. And what's been happening a lot lately is that people are realizing, HR people are realizing that applicant tracking systems and the whole digital job search and the whole keyword nonsense that's been happening, it's not giving the most quality candidates because you're going to get candidates that are super linear. So if I was to look for, like, say, another writer to help me with my resume writing processes, and I posted a job on I posted a job listing on a job board website, I'd get like the most high-ranking resumes would be the ones with super, super linear work history. They've been a writer since they graduated from college. They've been doing it for the past 10 years. They've been rising up and up and up in the writing field. But if you hire your entire team based on that logic, you're not going to get a balanced team. Like, you're going to just have people who are good at writing and not have people who are good at interacting and innovating. I mean, of course, that's a generalization, but what usually happens is when you have a team that's diverse and doesn't have linear experiences, you have people who have all this expertise and just mixing together, and it creates a synergy that benefits. And people are realizing that. HR people are realizing that. So they're really trying to read every resume. If you actually look at Google's HR policies, they don't use an applicant tracking software. A human being sits down and reads every single resume that they get. So the smart companies are realizing that applicant tracking systems, they give really boring and linear candidates. So the future, from an HR perspective, is to rely on networking and to rely on career fairs and kind of more personal interactions. And while it may seem expensive at first that, hey, you know, we have to dedicate an entire person to go to this job fair and like look for people, in the end it's cheaper because you're spending less time like, you know, rehiring people who quit because they found like a better option. Like, it just translates to better retention. When it comes to the perspective of the job seeker, you have people who they're getting smarter about networking. They're getting smarter about showing people, their target decision makers, that, hey, you know, I have the ability to solve this problem. And I never, ever got business by saying, hey, you know, these are the keywords in my profile, so, hey, I'm high up in search ranking. No, I got all the business I ever did because I had lots of human interactions. I consult, I talk to people, I offer, you know, my expertise. And that's how job seekers have to act as well. They have to act like their businesses and they're the CEO, and they have to act like they're consultants, basically, and talk to people about the problems we can solve.
Right.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
so Fatemah, it's the human touches that's more important now.
Exactly, definitely.
Thank you very much, Fatemah, and thank you, Ali, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farid, for always making an interactive experience for all of us with your questions. And thank you all of those who participated and asked the questions. And that really brings us towards the end of the webinar. I know there are a lot of other questions that are being posted in the question box. However, they are all under individual capacity, so would appreciate if you could directly reach to the email address that Fatemah is currently illustrating on the screen, which is fatemah@careertuners.com. So any concluding remarks that you would like to give, Fatemah, before we dismiss out?
I think the doctor really summarized it well. I think he did my job for me. He made it a lot easier. Yeah, it's all about the human touch. Forget keywords. Talk about problem solving. Respect the boundaries of LinkedIn, and rely on external resources to bring in connections and have those conversations. Because even at the end of the day, I don't rely solely on LinkedIn. If I did, my lead to conversion ratio would be a lot lower. I have to email people, I have to call them, I have to speak to them, I have to let them hear my voice so they know that I'm an engaging individual and I'm not boring, resume mail, and that I really create creative resumes and I really help people master the ability to communicate their strengths. So don't rely just on LinkedIn. Use it as a tool to connect with people, but your goal is to have face-to-face conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Fatemah. I really want to thank you on behalf of the Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, Mile, and thank you all of those who participated in this webinar. And we are recording this webinar. I've already pasted the link from where you can download the soft copy of the presentation that was illustrated in this webinar today from Mile Community. Stay tuned to webinar.mile.org for our upcoming webinars and to access the archive section as well. With that note, I would like to end this webinar. You all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling from.